What is up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingDudes.com. Welcome back to another one of our Kentucky Derby updates. All right, we got a lot to talk about. Coming up here, we've got an update on a couple of horses that were impressive last weekend, that one already on the Derby Trail, one that's going to be for sure. We'll do new top five for John and I here as we go through the show. We'll get John White's comments as well, and then we'll take a quick look at the three Kentucky Derby prep races coming up this weekend. All right, let's go to last week first, though. And I'm on the Racing Post here. This is on the Racing Post because when you go to Equibase, these horses, just the information doesn't really show up. But let's talk about the UAE 2000 Guineas winner, six speed, won that race. That was the only Kentucky Derby prep race last week. It happened in Dubai, in Dubai. And six speed, bred by Not This Time, out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. So very American breeding, obviously there. Kentucky bred horse here running overseas. Very, very good pedigree. Tremendous pedigree. Now 3 wins and 4 starts and a couple stakes wins there over at Maiden. So very interesting to see what this horse can do moving forward. This was a very impressive race. It's very hard, obviously, to kind of, to just kind of overall what happened. What was that? When you're looking at these overseas races, but I thought he was very good. I mean, the connections really want to come and run in the Kentucky Derby. I have no idea if this is going to be the horse from Dubai that finally wins it. I don't know. He may not even win the UAE Derby once we get to there, but he's at least stamped himself as a contender. Just kind of keep the name six speed, on your list. And, one thing I kind of go back with him. He's got a pretty good running style. He likes to go to the front. I think he's going to go long. If this was a horse and say he was based in the United States and he was, winning a couple of races, say it's just kind of the lower level races, and you look at the pedigree and you go, well, he's by Not This Time out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare, you get pretty excited. I think the only reason, like, even I'm, not that excited is because I just kind of seen this before. I'm just not sure that, it translates to Kentucky Derby success, but keep six speed on the radar here, running very well over at Maiden. All right, let's go to one that ran in the United States, Canaletto. Canaletto, a horse that broke the maiden on Sunday, the day after the Pegasus, going 1 mile there at Gulfstream Park. Into Mischief out of a Distorted Humor mare. This is a half brother to Sandman. Now, Sandman was kind of goofy, as you remember, and we'll see if that he grows out of that when he gets to be a 4-year-old this year. But he was also by Tappet, and Canaletto doesn't have that Tappet influence. He has Into Mischief, and they tend to be less crazy than the Tappets overall. So very impressive. He broke sharp. He kind of stalked the pace. He made a nice move around the turn to get the lead, and then he buried the competition. So a very impressive debut win for Canaletto. Sounds like the Tampa route could be where we see him next, at least the Tampa Bay Derby, but we'll see on that. A lot could change between now and then, but I thought it was a very good effort. He really stamped himself as a main, kind of up and coming horse, not a main contender, but an up and coming horse that has the potential to do some big things. 89 buyer speed figure for the effort. That's a pretty good, debut race. I liked it. It was at a mile. I loved the gallop out. Kind of showed me that I think he can go a little bit further than a mile, and obviously he's going to have to, but I think 2 turns will be okay for him as well. So Canaletto, a horse you better keep an eye on as well. A lot of talent. It is getting late. There's no doubt about it, but we've kind of seen in recent history, it's not too late yet. I think you can do it. Things are going to have to go right. We know that for sure on Canaletto. All right, let's get to the top 5s. I'll do mine first. I've got Commandment number 5 once again this week. We're not going to see him this weekend. We kind of thought we might see him in the Holy Bull. We are not. We're going to see a different Brad Cox horse we'll talk about here in a second. There, number 4, Litmus Test. We might see him this weekend in the Southwest Stakes. He is entered to run. Will they run at Oakland Park this week is the question. It's very, very cold down there. They had a lot of weather last weekend. I'm very skeptical. That track freezes up pretty quick. And, it's just one of those things that my experience following Oakland, I'd say it's like 20% chance they run. I don't want to be negative, but that's just kind of how I see it. Number 3 is Renegade for me. We'll see where this horse shows up next. He did not show up in the Holy Bull, but Renegade still at number 3 for me. Kind of a horse that honestly is a placeholder right now. might be one I drop off the list next week if we see something good coming up this week. Number 2, Paladin, of course, winner of the Rimson. We're going to see him in the Risen Star here in a couple of weeks, so we'll see if he can kind of live up to the hype. But right now, he is at number 2. And then Ted Noffey, number 1. He's had 2 very solid workouts since returning to the work tab. He looks really good to me, and it's hard to tell on works. It looks like he's kind of grown and developed pretty well. Still on target for the Fountain of Youth. I think all things are really sitting on go for him. It seems to be, things are going well. So I no chink in the armor yet. Of course, hasn't raced this year. We'll see what happens once he gets back, but he looks awfully good to me. All right, let's go through John White's top 5 now. As you might kind of guess, still no changes really into this. We'll go through it real quick. Strategic Risk at number 5. We'll hopefully see him this weekend at Oaklawn Park in the Southwest. If not, maybe it's next weekend. I really have no idea. And by the way, I'm just speculating. When I get full confirmation, we'll let you guys know. But as of right now, it seems like a long shot that Oaklawn's going to run this weekend, but we will see. Number 4 is Commandment. The Brad Cox horse that was impressive in the Mucho Macho Man. Kind of thought maybe we'd see him in the Holy Bull. We are not, but he is sitting there at number 4. John has Litmus Test at number 3. So if they do run the Southwest this weekend, or maybe when they run the Southwest, Litmus Test first, Strategic Risk, number 3 versus number 5 for John. So that would be interesting to see that. And we have the same top 2. Paladin, number 2 for John. Of course, like I said, targeting the Risen Star, he's working nicely, and Ted Noffey with a couple of nice works as well. John's comments this weekend. He said, "This is yet another week in which I have not made any changes to my top 5. However, I do have another horse lurking below my top 5. It's 6 Speed, who is headed to the UAE Derby after a 5-length win in the UAE 2000 Guineas at Maiden on Friday. Looking ahead, there's a darn good chance my top 5 will look different next week. That's because this coming Saturday, we have races in Arkansas, Florida, and New York on the road to the Kentucky Derby. I'm especially looking forward to Oaklawn Southwest Stakes and Gulfstream Park's Holy Bull." Now, before I read what he has to say about the Southwest, again, he may write the same thing this weekend to me because they might move it. We'll see what happens. Again, no official word. I'm just speculating as of Tuesday. But here's what he says about the Southwest. "The Southwest is headed by a pair of horses in my top 5, namely number 3, Litmus Test, winner of the Los Angeles Fraternity, and number 5, Strategic Risk, winner of Oaklawn Smarty Jones. Also in the Southwest is Decode, a scintillating debut winner at Oaklawn. And if you missed it, it was a 1-turn race at Oaklawn. Decode, and this is me talking, by the way, Decode debuted in a 99 Beyer speed figure for him in that effort. He is entered into the Southwest for his second start." Okay, back to John. "As for the Holy Bull, it appears to me that Nearly, Incredible, and Cannoneer will be tough dudes in that one. Nearly has won 2 straight at Gulfstream Park in dominant fashion. Incredible makes his first start after winning the Street Sense at Churchill Downs last October. And Cannoneer is coming off a terrific maiden victory at Churchill in November. Yes, the run for the roses is certainly heating up." All right, those were John's comments, and we'll segue to that Holy Bull that we'll talk about here. Full previews coming out on the website for these very soon. Basically, once I'm done with this one, we'll start on those. And as John mentioned, Incredible, Cannoneer, and Nearly, certainly the horses that stand out. A couple of notes: the number 6 Butane will not run in this race. His flight to Florida got canceled, so Butane will not run. And it sounds like Game For It may skip this race and go to the Sam F. Davis. So Butane and Game For It most likely, well, Butane 100% sounds like Game For It, most likely scratching. That leaves us a field of 7 if that happens. There's some other good horses in here as well. Global Aviator was a pretty good debut winner there at Gulfstream. Bravaro, the New York bred, has been running well up there. He's going to try Open Company. We'll see how that goes for him as well. But there's no question that Cannoneer, Nearly, and Incredible are the ones that kind of jump off the screen at you. So very interesting to see how this shakes out. It's really going to play a big factor in where horses go from here. So that's the big one in my mind. This is the one that's going to mean a whole lot there in the Holy Bull. Let's talk about the Southwest. Again, I'm unsure that the Southwest will run this weekend. Hopefully it does. We'll see what happens. So this is a full field of 14. This is very interesting because even if this, let's say the weather kind of does gets a little warmer than they think down there, horses really haven't touched that track down at Oaklawn in a while. So how's the track going to play? How are the local horses doing? They haven't had any works in the last, let's say 4 or 5 days. Are they really prepared to run? How will the shippers from Southern California like the really cold weather? So there's a lot of things. And like I said, it's 14 horses as well. Litmus test and butane are entered into this race. It'll be very interesting to see if both come, if they run. How interesting will that be? You do have, locals here that have ran very well. Silent Tactic, obviously, and Strategic Risk, the two Mark Casse runners that ran 1-2 in the Smarty Jones. They are here. You've got Decode, like I said, who broke that maiden. He is here. He was incredibly impressive on debut. We'll see if he can stretch out. You got Bricklin. He was a nice winner on Smarty Jones Day in an allowance race. Soldier and Diplomat was was third behind Incredible last time out in the Kentucky Jockey Club. So, maybe he's kind of the class. I don't know. Maybe you're going to get a bounce back from Rancho Santa Fe. Like this is a fascinating race. Hopefully it happens this weekend. It will be fun if it does. We do not have the withers out just yet. We do have probables for this race. Let's see if I can blow this up where you can see it. There you go. And then an ad pops up. So that is always a problem here. This is a Horse Racing Nation, and sometimes they do have a lot of ads on the site that screw with things. I'll try to get them all on the screen for you. Schoolyard Superman, Ottenho, 4th and 1, Balboa, Bricklin. Obviously, he's not coming here. Lucky Larry, Clocker Special, Tartable, and we're ads, and I can't see the other ones. But kind of give you an idea there. Now we're back. Okay, that's enough of that site. So the Withers are going to draw it later on today. We'll have a full preview for that one as well. Aqueduct in a similar situation as Oaklawn. They've canceled Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's not been a lot of horses on the track. So it'll be very interesting to see who enters and how that race shakes out. But the Withers will be running on Saturday as well. So that is kind of what's going on. I'll get this off the screen for you now. That's kind of what's going on this weekend. 3 big preps, weather kind of playing a factor, and 2 of them will kind of monitor the situation. Full previews for all these preps are coming out on the website as well. So get the picks there as well. All right. Well, I think that's it. That'll do it this weekend, or this week, I should say, for another Kentucky Derby update. Feel like we'll have a lot to talk about. There's also some interesting undercard races, at Gulfstream. There's an interesting maiden out at Santa Anita as well. So there's stuff going on, too, that could pop up kind of like Canaletto did last week. We'll have that covered if we see it as well, obviously. Pretty much right now, any 3-year-old race, we're watching it, and we're keeping an eye on it. So when we see anything, we'll definitely send it your way next week. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for watching. Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit subscribe. You really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, come back next week for another Kentucky Derby update.